Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered what really makes someone tick? What if you could get a glimpse into their core drivers just by paying a little closer attention? Today, we're going to break down a fascinating framework from our source material that claims to do exactly that. Our source material kicks things off with this amazing metaphor, and honestly, it perfectly sets the stage. The idea is that while someone feels like they're in the driver's seat, holding the steering wheel, the real influence, the real control is happening quietly, below the surface, with the rudders. So how does this actually work? Well, the framework gives us a pretty clear four-part process to follow. And it all starts with that central idea of the rudder. Okay, part one, controlling the rudder. Let's really dig into what this metaphor is all about. The concept is so simple, but it's kind of profound when you think about it. The person at the wheel, they feel like they're in charge. But the actual change in direction, that's happening out of sight. By understanding what someone truly needs and what they're afraid of, you can essentially get your hands on their rudder. And that brings us right to part two, the map of human needs. I mean, if you're going to control the rudder, you first need a map of the ocean, right? And get this, according to the source, this entire complex system is built on just 17 core human needs. Each one is described as a kind of loophole into the human mind, a unique entry point. Now, how are you supposed to remember 17 different needs? Well, the framework has this really clever way of organizing them. It puts them all inside this metaphorical house. It's a simple visual, but it's a super effective way to keep it all straight. So inside the house, you've got needs like protection and freedom, but you've got to pay special attention to those highlighted ones: appreciation, approval, and acceptance. The source calls these the fundamental needs, and they're basically the bedrock, the foundation of what drives us as social animals. Okay, so here's how you actually use the map. First, you identify what you think a person's primary need is, and you place them in a room of the house. Then you just look at the rooms right next to it. Those are probably their secondary needs. And here's the key. The closest fundamental need to them on the map, that's very likely what's really, truly motivating them deep down. Now for part three, needs, fears, and weaknesses. This is where the framework really starts to connect the dots. It's not just about observation anymore. It's about understanding leverage by linking every need to a fear and ultimately to a potential weakness. And the logic is really clear. Every need creates its own shadow. A fear that's a perfect mirror image. You can see it right here in the chart. A need for appreciation, that's tied to a deep fear of abandonment. A need to feel strong, well, that's linked to a fear of social weakness. And it's that fear, the source material says, that creates the psychological vulnerability. So how do you start collecting this info? The source suggests you've got to look beyond what people are saying. Watch their nonverbal cues. Is their voice soft? Do they avoid eye contact? Or are they the opposite, loud, posturing, getting right up in your personal space? You can quickly place someone on this spectrum, from timid to aggressive, and that adds another really important layer to your analysis. And that brings us to the final step, part four, creating a social profile. This is where we take all of our observations, the needs, the fears, the behavioral tics, and we put it all together into one simple, concise package. The tool that the framework uses for this is called the Hughes Social Stability Scale. It's basically designed to take all these different inputs and churn out a simple profile code. And here's the wild part. The source claims that with just a few minutes of observation, you can distill a person's complex personality down into a simple 3-digit code. For example, 131. So you hear a code like 131, and you're probably thinking, what on earth does that even mean? That's the really cool part. It's not just a random number. Each digit tells a piece of a story about a person's psychological makeup. So let's decode it. That first digit is their locus of control. A 1 means it's external. They feel like life happens to them. The second digit, following behavior, a 3 means they're insulated, so they're not easily swayed by the people around them. And that third digit, esteem, well, that's pretty straightforward. A 1 means it's low. So when you put it all together, that simple code, 131, paints a surprisingly detailed picture. It suggests someone who blames the outside world for what happens in their life, yet at the same time is kind of walled off from other people's influence. And what's at the heart of this seemingly contradictory person? Low self-esteem. So look, the big takeaway here isn't about running out and trying to slap a 3-digit code on your friends. Not at all. It's about recognizing that there are these incredibly complex patterns playing out right under the surface of our everyday conversations. This framework is just one lens for seeing them. And that leaves us with a final question to think about. Now that you've seen how a system like this works, what new patterns are you going to notice?